My name is Sarah. I'm 25 years old and work for a local company. I just got married this year and live with my husband Bobby, who's the same age as me. We were colleagues at the same company, an office romance that blossomed into marriage. Bobby has always shared a lot about his family, and he is very family-oriented. When I heard this, I felt he was a very kind person. Perhaps because he values the home so much, Bobby is very proficient in all household chores. Since we will continue to work in the future, I'm grateful for Bobby's high level of domestic skills. One day, when we went to meet Bobby's family in preparation for our marriage, only my mother-in-law was there. It turned out Bobby's father had passed away a few years ago. Bobby had been living alone after his father's death, but moves back home to live with his mother. She isn't old enough to receive Social Security benefits yet. Having been a stay-at-home mom all her life, she's surviving on the savings left by Bobby's father, but that's going to run out at some point. Concerned about his mother's living conditions, Bobby moves back home and was providing her with financial support. That's why she seemed anxious about Bobby leaving home after our marriage. Although Bobby and his mom wanted me to live with them, I wasn't really enthusiastic about the idea. That's because all the acquaintances I knew who had lived with their in-laws didn't have successful marriages. Living in someone else's home, even if it's Bobby's family's home, might be stressful. I wanted to avoid that, so I was against living together at this point. When I gently declined the offer to live together, my mother-in-law seemed a bit down. Seeing that, I suggested renting an apartment near her home. That won't be so lonely. Seeing her look relieved, I felt a great sigh of relief. Bobby seemed satisfied too, thinking it'd be okay if he could continue to provide for his mother while living nearby. As for the money for his mother, it seemed to come from Bobby's salary, so I didn't intervene. Perhaps relieved, my mother-in-law seemed genuinely happy about our marriage. I can't believe my son is marrying such a beautiful woman. It's like a dream. That's very kind of you. You don't have to be modest, Sarah. You're a wonderful person. Her words were so direct, I couldn't help but blush. Thinking of her smiling face, I believed happy days were ahead. After we started living in the nearby apartment, my mother-in-law began to visit us often. She would arrive in time for when we returned from work, bringing takeout food with her. She'd come over for dinner 3 or 4 times a week, so we spent half the week eating dinner with her. Cooking after work can be quite tiring, so it was very appreciated to have meals already prepared. However, knowing she was struggling financially, I was a little worried about her frequently buying takeout for us. She said it was okay because she was also eating, but I still felt somewhat guilty. This situation with my mother-in-law lasted for about 6 months, but gradually I began to feel a sense of discomfort. Good evening, Sarah. Aren't you coming home a bit late? Do you think so? I'm working, so it's normal, I think. My mother-in-law gradually started to make prickly comments. Work is a good excuse, but you're a wife, right? Don't you ever think that you need to work a little harder on the household chores? She seemed annoyed that I was coming home at the same time or later than my husband. I manage because I'm the one who brings home the dinner, but you don't seem to cook much. Are you making proper meals for my son? I usually do. Depending on when we get home, there are days when my husband cooks too. That's how we share the chores. You have my son making the meals? What the hell? She reacted dramatically, and I was surprised by her vehemence. My husband has no complaints about sharing the housework. It's not practical for me to be the only one doing it. My wry smile and response seemed to rub her the wrong way, and she turned sour. Don't laugh it off. As a wife, you have to be more proactive in doing the household chores. Although my mother-in-law continued to deliver deli food to our house, I wondered if she was doing her own housework, but I didn't voice my suspicions.
I've been delivering dinner to your place for half a year now, but you don't do anything for us.
I appreciated her bringing us food, but I never asked for it. Besides, she eats what she brings over to our place. She doesn't wash the dishes we use, I do that, so she must have some leisure too. I thought she was being kind by doing this, but that wasn't the case. She was trying to find a reason to have me do the housework at her place. But I didn't actually ask for it.
Don't repay kindness with ingratitude. Instead of saying unnecessary things, help out with our housework a little.
I have a job, so that's quite difficult.
You're so arrogant, even though my son earns more. Don't get carried away just because you're working.
My mother-in-law probably doesn't know about my husband's income. Of course, I haven't even told my husband about my income, so she wouldn't know about it either. She was assuming from old thoughts that the man must be earning more. I was astounded by her outdated way of thinking and didn't even feel like arguing. At that moment, my husband came home.
I'm home. Mom, you're here.
Oh, Bobby, I brought dinner again today, but I'm going home now.
You're leaving today? I always feel bad for having you bring us deli food. Thanks. Oh, and here's the money for this month.
It's okay. Thanks for the money. Well then, see you later, Sarah.
Yeah, see you. With that, my mother-in-law left, wearing an insufferably sarcastic smile. To make matters worse, she never speaks ill of me in front of my husband, Bobby. It would be easier to explain the situation if she did the same in front of him, but she doesn't. She always played the good mother in Bobby's presence. Despite thinking that Bobby might not understand my mother-in-law's true nature, I reported what she has been saying to me. Can we talk?
What's up?
Your mom has been quite harsh on me lately. Today again, she told me to come over and do the housework.
Oh, really?
I have my job and I'm tired every day, so when I said I couldn't, she got angry. Bobby didn't quite seem to get what I was saying.
Well, my mom just cares a lot about you, Sarah. Maybe she was just being a bit strict.
With a carefree look, he continued.
She just wants you to be a good wife for me, Sarah. You should be grateful.
Even after explaining what was being said to me, Bobby didn't understand. Far from it, he started to argue that his mother was right. He affirmed his mother's actions and didn't take my concerns seriously. Feeling that further discussion was futile, I decided not to bring up my mother-in-law anymore.
Hey, Sarah! Is this apartment owned by your parents?
My mother-in-law, who had come over to our house as if it were the norm, suddenly said this. With Bobby out shopping, she started whispering, which made me uneasy. In reality, we were living in an apartment owned by my parents, but I had never mentioned that to my mother-in-law. Yes, but how did you know that?
I heard it from my son. You own other apartments too?
I sighed deeply, hoping my mother-in-law wouldn't notice. I didn't want her to know, but it seems like Bobby had told her without thinking. It seems so, but the apartments belong to my parents, so I have nothing to do with them.
That can't be. By the way, your parents must have a decent passive income, right?
Judging from the way my mother-in-law was talking, I had a bad feeling. I'm not really sure about that. I have nothing to do with the apartment business. My mother-in-law seemed irritated that I wasn't engaging with her properly. Even after Bobby came home, she continued to wear a disgruntled expression.
Mom, what's wrong?
Sarah's parents, they own several apartments, right? I didn't know they had so much wealth.
Sarah, were you hiding this from my mom?
Bobby, too, started to blame me with his expression. Hide what? It's not even my money. It's my parents' money we're talking about.
Right. Sarah, you said you couldn't help with house chores, right? You don't have to help, but could you increase the amount you send home instead?
What?
I mean, you're not even paying rent, and your parents have money. A little bit more won't hurt.
I was shocked by my mother-in-law's selfish words. I pay my rent diligently, and I don't get any particular assistance from my parents. Yet here she is, trying to leech off my parents' money. My husband, hearing his mother's words, nodded in agreement.
That's true. It's not right to hog all the money, including that of our parents. Sarah, let's ask your parents to send us money.
My son, I knew you'd understand.
So, how much do we need?
Well, just a little bit is fine. How about $2,500?
$2,500? My husband and mother-in-law didn't stop their outrageous conversation. At this rate, they might contact my parents and force them into sending money. To prevent this, I vehemently refused. I've told you time and again, I cannot send my parents money. As I raised my voice, my mother-in-law clicked her tongue.
You have such a bad attitude for a daughter-in-law.
With that, she left the house. After she had left, silence lingered between my husband and me. After a while, he broke it.
Sarah, don't you think that was a bit harsh towards my mother?
Instead of defending me, my husband sided with his mother. Why are you saying this too? It's impossible to think of paying such a large amount every month, right? Depending on my parents' money, the one in the wrong is your mother. Even as I said this, all my husband did was sigh.
Try to consider my mom's feelings a little. Anyway, I'm going to bed.
With that, he promptly went to bed. After that, my mother-in-law did not visit our house. She probably didn't want to see my face. Instead, she started calling often. The calls were always about sending money.
You talked to your parents about sending money, right?
I haven't.
Why haven't you? You're such a useless daughter-in-law. If you don't want to send money anymore, I'll get you divorced.
Such calls continued daily, and I was feeling down. I reached my limit and decided to talk to my husband. Bobby, I'm getting daily calls from your mother. She keeps insisting on sending money, and she even mentioned divorce. I assumed that he wouldn't choose to divorce me over something like this. But my predictions were completely wrong.
For heaven's sake, just give her some money. You're being too harsh on Mom. I can't love someone who can't appreciate my mom.
Excuse me? Bobby's response was the polar opposite of what I thought. His words made me come to my senses. I can't love someone who would defend his mother's greedy opinions over his wife. I completely lost all feelings for my husband, who sided with his mother till the end and arranged for a meeting with my mother-in-law.
Oh, Sarah dear, calling me over to your house. Is there some good news you want to share?
My mother-in-law was beaming, certain that I had decided to give her money. Well, it might be good news for you. I said that and showed her the filled-out divorce papers. I really don't want to send you money, so I'm getting a divorce, just as you said. Bobby said he can't love me anymore, so it's okay, right?
What?
Also, I'm the one on the lease for this apartment. Please sign the divorce papers quickly and move out. Looking at the divorce papers, their faces turned pale as a sheet.
No way! I might have mentioned divorce, but it was a joke. I had no other choice because you were being so stingy.
I was kidding too. Don't take it seriously.
The two of them, desperate for money, were pathetically making excuses. Not a single apology was directed towards me. I felt nothing for these two who only thought about themselves. I see, but it was you who suggested the divorce, right? I just followed through. As they realized that I was serious about the divorce, the two of them started to get frustrated.
All you had to do was cough up the money. I can't stand that self-righteous attitude of yours.
Cut it out.
Facing the two of them who started shouting, I showed my phone and said, "I've recorded everything you've said. I might be able to get some compensation if I take this to a lawyer. Or should I call the police right now?" Upon realizing I had evidence, they quieted down instantly. Realizing his fate, Bobby filled out the divorce papers, packed his belongings, and left, never to return to this house again. But my mother-in-law was a different story. After the divorce was finalized, I started living freely. Bobby moved back to his parents' house. My ex-mother-in-law, seemingly desperate for money, started berating Bobby, who divorced me. I sometimes ran into Bobby at work, and he always looked exhausted. She started stuffing my mailbox with papers scrawled with nasty words, and even scratched my apartment door. What is this? I'm sure it's her. I was enraged when I discovered this. The security camera had clearly captured my ex-mother-in-law's harassment. I didn't hold back and reported this to the police, providing the footage as evidence. The police, aware of my ex-mother-in-law's rants at home, promptly issued a restraining order. Of course, I'm also billing her for all the repair costs for the apartment. Living off her husband's savings, my ex-mother-in-law couldn't afford the repair bill and ended up making Bobby pay it. Feeling responsible for the divorce, Bobby is dutifully paying in installments. After this failed marriage, I had been pessimistic about love. However, 2 years after my divorce, I found a new partner. We were dating with marriage in mind, but I didn't want any money-related issues to arise later. Actually, my parents own an apartment building. I don't get any of the money, but my ex tried to force me to give him some, and we ended up getting divorced.
Wow, that's something. It belongs to your parents, right? How greedy can someone be? It's good that you got out of there safely.
Hearing my current partner's opinion, I feel truly relieved. Not everyone thinks like my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law. I want to forget those past mistakes and look forward to starting a new chapter in my life.